All right, Bob. We can go ahead and get started. Today I'm going to be talking to Bob Sisson, as an experienced home inspector here in the Maryland area. And we're going to be talking to Bob about old problems that he's identified in the new inspections. So when Bob goes out to do a new inspection, he's discovering old problems, according to the owner of the property, that probably don't need to be addressed, according to that owner. And we're going to be talking to Bob a little bit more about that in terms of what we can expect to see as buyers when we encounter those type of problems and what type of suggestions Bob has for us today. So welcome, Bob.
Well, thank you, Adam. More and more we are seeing people who are getting an inspection when they're buying home, and the sellers are saying, well, oh yeah, that's been that way forever. Why should I have it fixed? And this can be a variety of problems. It can be plumbing, it can be heating, it can be electrical. And the big reason that we want it to be fixed is it may not have been a problem in the past with the way the seller lives in the home. But we're bringing in new people who have a different style of life. They're going to use the house differently. They're going to bring in new devices. And also the big thing is resale. When they go to sell the house in 5 years, the next inspector hopefully will flag the same things that I'm flagging today, and they're going to say, fix it. And it doesn't get any cheaper to fix it 5 years down the road. In fact, it may get worse. So it's a matter of safety today for you and for your value when you go to resell the house.
Right. And along the same lines, if you don't mind, Bob, I'll just chime in here. It's an opportunity for buyers to ask for the sellers that they're working with on the sale to offset or even pay for some of those changes, as opposed to waiting until after settlement, where they're going to take on the payment burden exclusively on their own.
And a variety of the things that we're seeing, obviously anything that goes in the resale contract sections or the amendment sections are easy. Electrical is one of my favorite. We're finding contaminated electrical panels that maybe they were spray painted or some other contaminant got in the electrical panel years ago. It's worked fine according to the seller for years. Why should it have it be fixed? Well, the rule says if you can't remove the contaminant with a dry cloth, the insides of the panel should be replaced. That can be expensive, and the reason is you're going to use the house differently. You know, the current owner may not have that big stereo, may not have a microwave. You're going to use the house differently, so the electrical patterns in the house are different, and why take the risk? That's, you know, people are paying me to be paranoid to protect them.
And the electrical usage in particular, I can tell you right now that today's home buyers are using a lot more electricity than yesterday's and certainly generations ago in terms of all of the new technology that's out there, these plasma screen TVs and you know, what have you, new computers and everything else. They're drawing a lot more energy or electricity than previous generations. So that makes sense to me.
That's a wonderful lead-in to the next thing that I'm seeing, is we're seeing a lot of older houses come on the market with 60 amp service. And this is easy to identify with a round meter base that looks like a form fit to the meter. That's 60 amps for the entire house. If you take an electric dryer, a microwave, and maybe some central air conditioning, you're out of power. Most of these old houses had gas heat, gas dryers, gas stoves, so they didn't have any big electrical draws. Well, modern people are adding air conditioning, lots of computers, as you said, the plasma screen, and when one or two of those kicks in, the lights dim and the computer complains. One of the things we always recommend is people strongly look at that 60 amp service and figure out when it makes sense to upgrade.
Gotcha. And you had mentioned one way to identify that 60 amps is the circular meter out front.
Yes, the meter itself, the glass piece, is always going to be round, but on the modern panels, it's a 12 by 24 rectangular box underneath the meter. The old original meters, it was a little tiny round base that was not much bigger than the meter itself.
Okay, I've certainly seen a lot of those, and I think I've seen when buyers request an upgrade to that service is called a heavy up. Is that what you would do to solve that problem?
Yes.
Okay. And what amps or what power output are you recommending for today's buyers? What should they upgrade to?
Well, the minimum you can install today is 150 amps. Most homes that we see today are 200 for up to probably 4 to 4,500 square feet. Much above that, or an all-electric house, we're actually seeing people who are putting in 400 amp service.
Okay. That's quite a bit higher than 60.
Yes, right. But we're talking about some of the small, quaint houses that we see that may be built in the 1940s, 1,000 square feet, perfect starter houses. But when we start putting in the new modern kitchen, the new appliances, the air conditioning or the heat pump and some of the other things, we run out of juice real fast.
Right, right. And it's all relative, like you were saying. I mean, back then I imagine that was quite a bit of energy. So, by today's standards, we have to look at it a little differently. But now, Bob, I have a question for you because I hear this one a lot during inspections too, and it's somewhat related. It has to do with the code, the building code. And as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're certainly the expert here, what the current building codes are, it's not like when you go into do a home inspection for an older house, that house needs to be up to today's building codes, correct?
Correct. Code is not retroactive. We're inspecting a house to the code when the house was built. So that ancient electric panel, if there's nothing wrong with it, there's no double taps, things like that, it's acceptable. However, when they go in and they put in the new kitchen and they replace all the outlets and they put in new counters, everything they touch has to be to new code. So when we see that old house with the new kitchen, well, the outlets have to be upgraded, we need the anti-shock sockets and all that stuff. Same thing in the bathrooms. When they update the fixtures, we need the anti-shock sockets, some of the spacing, some of the lighting requirements all have to be brought up to date.
So what you're saying is that if they were to ever do renovations in those kitchens or bathrooms or wherever they are doing those renovations, they'd need to bring it up to code at that point. So it makes sense to go ahead and request that kind of thing, particularly if you plan on doing those renovations at the time you purchase the property. But even more so, like you were saying earlier, the demand on electricity, for example, is just a lot higher, whether you plan on doing those renovations or not. So for those two reasons, it's a good idea for you to get a thorough home inspection and take that to consideration.
It's nice when we go into old houses that haven't been touched at all, because there shouldn't be anything modern. Where we run into problems is where people do half a renovation and they don't pull permits, they upgrade some of the appliances in the kitchen, and we go in and say, well, you touched the kitchen, you have to complete the renovation, and they get upset. But they're the ones who started it and didn't finish it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I appreciate your time today, Bob. Before I let you go, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our first-time home buyers or buyers that may have not had a home inspection for a while and are considering purchasing property here before I let you go?
The big thing is always ask questions. If you are getting a home inspection, don't be shy about asking any question whatsoever. If you don't know what something is, you want to know how to use it, how to service it, anything you want. The home inspector is a wonderful source of information. You're there buying his time. So if you have a question, don't be shy.
Excellent advice, Bob, and I certainly encourage all of my buyers to ask a lot of questions. Bob, having gone through your inspections in the past, you're very informative, and you do have a lot of great information for today's home buyers for them to take advantage of so they can make educated decisions as to what to ask the sellers to repair or have corrected prior to settlement. So I look forward to doing this again soon.
All right.
All right. Thanks for your time.
All right. Good luck.
Thanks.
Right. Bye.
Bye-bye.